Hey, Jessica. Oh, maybe it's me. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Marissa. I still haven't eaten dinner yet, which is not good. All right, it's 8:33. We're gonna go ahead and get started so that we are not here all evening long. I am super, super tired. I feel like I'm always tired, but it's also end of the fiscal year for me, so I'm really, really tired. Um, Bree was supposed to join us. I sent her the link. I am gonna be honest, I'm not sure where she is. So, all right. If she does join us, I'll add her in. But today we are here to discuss just another story. Let's start with ratings. What did you rate it? Hold on. Let me see if StreamYard has all these weird like ads almost in the background that I don't like. Oh, there she is.
Girl, how did I forget?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I don't have my thing on. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get my headphones.
Okay, 4 stars, 4 5. It was 4 stars for me too, y'all. I liked it. Jessica, I see what you mean now. When we talked about Monday, and you said that is very timely. I like the storytelling. I like the art. I I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I gave it 5 stars though. You gave it
You give
4.
5?
Because I was trying to find things I didn't like and I couldn't. So I said, giving it a 4 star for what reason?
I feel like we've talked about this before. Where you're like, I'm not gonna give it 4 stars if I can't find anything wrong with it. There was something else we talked about. I can't remember what it was though.
Yeah. I didn't have any I had nothing. Now I started another comic after that and I was like, either I'm gonna DNF this or take a star away because this font is trash. But I didn't feel that way with with the book that we read today. I actually thought it was very heartfelt and was close to tears at several times.
I'll tell you what panel got me the most when they were in the river because I feel like they swapped roles almost, and he talked about how insensitive he was, like reflecting on that, and how
Yeah,
insensitive he was um, to his mom's feelings, and then how it flipped when he felt that current, and he was like, "Oh, I would have never been able to meet like to make that
without
without
my
my mom."
mom.
Yeah,
That was
that
that was
part.
touching.
Yeah, that part was the part where I was like, mm, mm, but it was really, really, it was well done.
The
Um,
the the part where I forget his name. I don't know why I keep thinking Guillermo, but I don't know if that was his name. The guy who was their god and told him why he was a scar on the face. I did not know it was going to get that dark that fast. Of like, And I think it's just a product of greed and circumstance, and it's just being like, I can bypass all of this and take people on these outside routes, not knowing that gorilla might be there, and didn't pay. I don't think he paid much attention because then everybody lost their lives. Because everybody except him left him on scar, and I can see why he, was serious. Like, if you don't do what I say, you will die, kind of thing. But then to come to America and be trafficked.
That, I think,
it's such a real reality for so many people.
It is. And I think it caught me off guard. Because when he was talking about the fact, like, oh, I thought we were, that was it. That was the hardest part. And it did not, which is my own ignorance there, it did not click. I was like, what else could happen at this point? And so when the scene hit, I was like, yeah, you could go through all of that only for someone to traffic you when it's all said and done. So that part was difficult. Their leader, one, there was almost this lack of closure that was a theme throughout the course of the graphic novel that I found to be very interesting.
Yeah.
And how there were so many times in which he said, I never got to say goodbye, or I never saw them again. I don't know what happened to them. And knowing that is how traumatizing that can be and has been for so many people who've made this journey, that you can't get that closure possibly with family and friends. And two, the people that you meet along the way, you never know how their story ends.
No. Like, what was really sad to me is, like, when he went to say goodbye to Tika and Grandpa, and then they were like asking him what's wrong with him, and he was just like being sentimental but not telling them. And then when his mom was like, "Okay, it's time for us to go," and Tika got off the bus, I started crying when she got off the bus.
Oh yeah, and she popped back up. Yeah,
and she got emotional. I was like, oh. Yeah. And then when they took his pants, I was sad about that. When they took all of his clothes and let him keep the belt and the picture of the saint. I thought that was sad too. Also sad moments.
That final couple of pages was gut-wrenching because my assumption is that he never got to see her again in person.
He didn't.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed.
That's what I assumed by how that was written.
Yeah.
That he never got to see her again in person before she passed.
1923 to 2020.
I was like, damn. But also towards the end, and I know during our Sprints on Monday, Jessica was talking about how timely this is and how it wasn't like we just kind of picked it. It wasn't an intentional, like, like there's no way that we could have known that this was going to be something that was, I mean, it would have been a relevant conversation, but I think now in the midst of everything,
relevant.
How relevant it is. And so the panel work where they were talking about, like, nobody makes this journey risking their lives just because who would put themselves through that just for the sake of putting themselves through that?
Yeah. When the story was like just another story, and how it was said a few times throughout the graphic novel, I was like, I just had to sit with that a little bit, because it's like, that is common. Like, it in a lot of ways, it is just another story. And people don't think that. Like, people don't think how common it is for people to have to journey, and their journey be that rough to come to the US. Like, there's so many stories like that. and how he just was kind of desensitized to it until his nephew, right? Nephew cousin brother asked him if he can write about it. And I was just like, damn, that happens all the time. It's just something we don't talk about. It's kind of like people go through type of complex trauma like that. It's like, you're just like, oh, okay, just another day, you know? But
Yeah.
on just another day, it's still traumatic as hell, you know?
I This is the type of graphic novel that will put a lot into perspective and humanizes these journeys, because I think that when you're fed certain things from the media, the human aspect of it is stripped away. And so all you hear are numbers and, our border's not locked down, it's not safe. But then seeing stories like this and how common it is to know that people are not doing this for kicks and giggles to invade the US,
Yeah,
because you see how many different ways they could have died
yeah,
through
several
this whole
times.
process. And how much money, and even the amount of money that his mom, and I think as a mom, I understood that, like, your kids don't know what you'll do in order to make money happen. And we never really learn what she did to make that money
Yeah,
sit on that table.
right.
And she may have never shared that with him. Um, but not only are you willing to do whatever you can to make that money, I mean, how much money she ended up paying for herself, then for her son, only for them to be trafficked at the end. And these people are now asking for an additional 10 grand. Like, that it changes, I think, the way people, or it could change for those who are willing to listen, um, how you can become so desensitized, how you lose your humanity sometimes when you just hear the statistical information behind it, right? And then these stereotypes that are created of individuals. And I think I also kind of appreciated at the end, um, where she talks about, you make it because it provides. And I think I connected with that, like, from a parent's perspective, right? She left, and it gave her the opportunity to give her child better opportunities. But there's still this gap of, I can't go home. I'm stuck.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can't
That,
imagine how that feels.
that's a reality, though, for so many people living in America, though.
Yeah.
They can never return home.
You can't at all. You're stuck here, you're in limbo. And there's this longing that you have to connect where you're from with where you are, and you can't do it.
And I also thought the second guy they had, he got them to America. Um, I think he's a particular type of evil to say you two get the special treatment. The special treatment was trafficking
Yep.
because you're upset that mom had anxiety attack because of her fear of water, and him being like, "We're not leaving my mom."
I thought
So that
maybe they were
triggered
just,
him so bad that he subjected them to additional harm.
I thought that I thought that when he said that, because they had paid so much money, it confused me, because that's not what I don't know. I wasn't expecting that. And so I thought, like, oh, okay, well, maybe because they paid so much money, um, they're leaving this house to go do something else. But then it was like, I don't know. I just felt like maybe in that scene I was shell shocked.
I talked. I said he's on bullshit.
Oh yeah, Jessica said I couldn't stop thinking about Consuelo and her daughter. Yeah,
Me too. Me too.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, and it's also like a true depiction of like, um, people who are out here trafficking because it's like they went to the house and it was empty. There was
Hmm.
nothing there. It's just like they leave and go somewhere else. They leave and go somewhere else. They leave and go somewhere else. And it's also thinking of like, is Consuela and her daughter if they even alive? Because she stayed back and she's the only one in the house. So I doubt that they wasn't gonna blame her.
For that, yeah. See, I'm behind, but he just happened to have an FBI connection. Not everyone is that lucky. Yeah, that literally. I mean, some of the things, I mean, really genuinely, um, it almost felt like luck of the draw. Like the fact that he
Yeah,
stuck that thing in his belt as well as the money that his father gave him. He just happened to sew that into his belt, and that's what got them out of those ropes. That's what happened to he had that money to give that guy to add minutes to the phone. Like it is. It can be inevitably a stroke of luck. And that is scary to think about as someone who is um like I have my issues here, but to be so settled in like the space where I'm at and to think that to do something like that, you don't know whether the cards are in or not in your favor, but your living situation is so dire that you're willing to risk that.
I'm not gonna lie, I kept prepping myself for possible sexual assault though. There was a few scenes that I thought that was gonna happen to his mom.
I didn't think so only because if it was going to happen, I thought that the way that it would be done would be implied and not on page, only because it's a young adult graphic novel.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that made me, but there were a couple of points like when the guy had winked at her in one panel and I was like,
Oh, that wink, I was so grossed out by that wink.
yeah, I was
But
like,
they,
oh.
yeah. But I was able to calm down when they start joking about him like wanting to marry her. And they were
Oh yeah, yeah,
laughing
yeah, yeah,
about it
yeah,
on
yeah,
top of the
yeah,
deal. I thought
yeah,
that was funny.
yeah. But that first initial kind of thing, it was like, oh gosh, what
Yeah,
is he gonna say or do until I'll marry you right here?
yeah. And then the guy slapped him.
Yes.
That wasn't funny, but it was funny.
It was funny at the same time though. It wasn't funny, but it was funny. Um, what did you think of the art?
I thought the art was beautiful. I love how I think we got a good mixture of words and then like images that describe what's happening.
Yeah. I the way that he drew people was interesting. It took me a second to get adjusted, but I liked it. And I liked
Yeah,
um the coloring between the past and the present. How they did kind of like a monochromatic situation for the current, and
hmm
then the past was more vibrant, which is interesting because typically you would expect the reverse
hmm
where the past would be monochromatic and the current would be in color is what I've seen in a lot of graphic novels. So I like that he flipped
hmm
the two, and I don't know if there was necessarily any intention behind that, um, but I like that he went from a different angle than what we typically see when there's two timelines in a graphic novel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also love that. Well, I always love things that go in and out of time. Those are like some of my favorite reads.
Hmm.
But I love that I wasn't confused.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people do time jumps, you be confused as hell. You're like, what the fuck are we doing?
Hmm. No,
I
he did
wasn't
it very,
confused.
yeah, he did it very well and kept it in a very linear fashion, um, which I think it helped to be able to go back and forth and not get lost in the context of the story. I love too that there were certain panels where we saw the illustrations in the notepad as he was taking notes. Like the
Yeah,
guy that they talked about that had kind of like, oh, I had shot, which I shouldn't have laughed, but it was a lighter moment where he was like, yeah, I had shock therapy and now I'm completely back to normal. And I was like, no, no, I don't think so.
when he did the panel of him receiving shock therapy and then him not, like, just living in the trauma of it. I said, this petty.
It was, and
I
then
said,
for
this
him,
petty.
go ahead,
But
sorry.
then I got emotional when he was like, dude, don't worry. I'm gonna make sure your mom get over this gate. He's
Yeah,
terrified, and he's like, oh no. And then you see mom struggling and you see the man helping her, but then
yeah.
mom falls and then the man just like was like he said, I was helping her off the gate. I never said about her to the safety. Getting down. And I was like, oh
He
my God, is she gonna be so injured that she can't walk?
She was fine, yeah, but I was glad that she was
Yeah.
okay. I do think that he was in some ways some comedic relief, right?
He was
He really was,
Pelly girl,
because it
a
was
pay
really,
girl.
really heavy.
Yeah,
But he was, and he had been through so much, the two of him, like him and his brother. And like Jess said, like his brother was like, yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. Didn't say anything
he's
else.
and I was like, is he gonna say anything other than yeah, bro? He just kept saying yeah,
No,
bro.
yeah, bro.
And I'm like, are they brothers for real or just like, bro? You know, is this biological or look? So
But I think that even the storytelling within the storytelling was ingenious, right? And it
yeah,
still fit that theme of just another story, right? So it's like we're getting his story, but he's also showing us like there's even more. And I
yeah,
learned so much about these people from Guatemala, Honduras, people from
yeah,
El Salvador as well. Like,
and
so you're getting all of these characters, and we don't get to know them. And I think it was very intentional that they're not, some of them are not fully fleshed out, and that's on purpose because there's no way he could have gotten to know them in that way. And so they are
exactly,
one-dimensional because they were one-dimensional for him in real life, but they all
exactly.
have a story.
There was just
Um,
so much humanity in it.
yes, yes. I'm
Yeah,
about to
so
change my
much
rating.
humanity. Yeah, that's why I told you. I was like, I got no notes, bro. That was 5 stars for me. And like I also worry about the pregnant woman. Like,
Yes, from
cause she was
Honduras.
there
Yeah,
for 3 months and it's like
yeah.
she's waiting on money. Like, but then okay, I'm gonna tell you about a plot twist that I thought was gonna happen that didn't. So I clocked it early on and the drawing alluded to that one girl liking Carlos, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then something mattered was that she lost it and thought he was speaking French. She said, look, that's all I know. And then he laughed a little on that. And then when they went outside and she told him to meet him outside and was like, I'm gonna pay for it and all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, what if she is the wife I was thinking of Desperate Housewives, and like a mix of that, and like if she's the wife of a dangerous dude, and now he about to get caught up. Oh God, please don't let this be the twist. And I
I
was
can
so
see
happy
that.
that it wasn't that. I was so
I
happy
can see
it
that
wasn't
though.
that. I was like, I don't need no more stress reading this book. I need no more stress.
I
Yeah,
definitely could see that though, where that would have been like the ultimate plot twist of him getting caught up. But um even I think some interesting things too is that as many people that were trying to harm them, there were these pockets of people who were also like willing to help or wanted to
Yeah.
help because she gives
Yeah.
them the garlic.
Yeah.
And I was like, for me, I thought I was like, oh, when they got to that point and someone's like, who has garlic? And I was like, oh, please don't take it from this boy. Please don't take it from him.
Exactly. That's what I thought. And then you shared it. So
And they
I
just
was
shared
like,
it. And I was like, please don't take it from him like that. Don't
please
take
don't
it and
take,
leave.
don't
Yeah,
rob them. I'm
don't
like,
do that.
no, no.
Don't take the garlic from him. But it was nice to see even in that guy's story where they were talking about riding on the top of the train and how people
Yeah.
would like throw rocks at them, but then women would come with water and clean clothes and stuff like that. And I knew, I forget what I read or what I watched that talked about that train and how deadly it is. I can't remember where my context or my knowledge of that comes from, but it was how normalized death becomes in certain situations as well.
Absolutely. Because
And that was,
imagine.
yeah, that panel for me was tough where the gang members who just jumped
Yeah.
because they would rather jump than have to deal with whatever the gang was going to do to them. And I was like,
Yeah. Or the shoe.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That
because people
was,
fall asleep and fall off.
imagine snoring, knocked out, and fall to your death on train trip. Imagine. When they were talking about that, I was like, oh my God, like, listen, when he said just because, we're not doing this just because, I
Yeah,
felt that. I felt that. It's like,
yeah.
absolutely.
It can't be. Once again, I have to go back to this because I think it's so important that this is not something that's for the faint of heart, right? I mean, you are at the point where um your circumstances are not going to allow you to stay where you are, right? And I don't like that. I think the United States as a country has made light work of what people do to get here. It's almost like we treat it
On
as if people,
vacation, like
yes, like
it's in a book.
people fly first class to the border to hang out.
Exactly.
And that's, I feel like, the perception that some people have of immigrants. And I'm like, yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Because I mean, I could be
I
wrong for
think,
saying this. Go ahead.
no, I don't think you're wrong at all. I think a lot of Americans don't even understand what the word refugee means.
No, no.
So that lies one of the problems.
Yeah. Um, I also think that in the political state that we're in, and not that we haven't, there haven't been pockets of us this way for a while. Um, I don't know how you can't see the human in another you know what I'm saying? Like you can't look at these individuals as humans. I can't process the fact that you could have such disdain for people who want so much better for themselves and their families. And then um, I just think it's kind of ironic for the United States to kind of turn their nose up to refugees, asylum seekers, when a lot of the destruction of their countries,
It's because
our
of
hands have
us.
been in it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there's an irony in all of that.
absolutely.
It's it's sad. And then it made me think about like how many people are making the journey right now. As I was reading it, I'm like, how
Oh, I
many
had
people
that
are
thought too
doing
while
this
reading.
right now in real time as I sit in the comfort of my bed?
Yeah,
And it's not to minimalize, and I think this is where people get things confused sometimes, if I might say so, that I can acknowledge that, I live paycheck to paycheck, right? I have my own struggles here in the United States, but I also have there are certain advantages and privileges that I also have at the same time. To be able to have a roof over my head and lay in my bed and read this graphic novel on a device
Yeah.
with internet, it puts a lot of things into perspective, because I'm like, dang, I wonder how many people are doing this right now, risking their lives to make it across the border.
Yeah. A real reality. Not faithful.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like I know some of this, right? But I think like you have this even for me, like there's this general knowledge, and then getting someone's personal story can sometimes make you be like, dang, like that's wild.
Yeah, a personal account that gets you every time. Well, me.
No, yeah. No, I think for me as well, I do believe that like personal, like getting down to that nitty-gritty detail, the fear, um, the hope, um, just all these emotions that I think that they were so readily experiencing bled through every single one of those pages.
Oh yeah. And
Because
I
for them to
sense
be
that it
scared.
was more than what we actually got.
Yeah. I think the age demographic, which you know what, I kind of applaud that, because I do think that teens need to see this as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that they're still at that age where, um, I'm not saying that an adult can't learn empathy or can't grow or can't change. I just feel like the older we get, the more set we are in our morals and our ethics, and it takes a lot more. And I feel like with kids, and I always say this, like with the windows, the mirrors, the sliding glass doors, and children's lit. When I see children's lit, I mean like 0 to 18 is considered children's lit. I know we like to divide, but technically it is all children's literature. Um, it's so important for them to see stories like this when we're missing a lot of humanity now. Like,
Oh yeah,
we're
absolutely.
desensitized to a lot now. Um, and this generation has grown up with access to so much that and Brie, you know this better than me, but I just see it kind of even in my own child, which she's able to grow up with. Um, seeing a cell phone, like seeing a phone like this, like at 5 years old is even different from me at 5 years old. I was looking at pagers.
Beepers, baby. Beepers. Calling people on their beepers. Where are you? Okay.
So it's that's the shift and the access to what they can see in the conversations that they engage in. I think sometimes they can be desensitized to a lot of things. Um, I see conversations. And I'm not going to get into it, but there was a thread that I saw today that really disappointed me. Um, and how someone did not want to support another marginalized group because of a couple of issues. And I'm being very vague about it because I don't want to have that conversation right now. Um, but how things can get oversimplified, I think it's unfortunate. And so having access to something like this, where you feel someone else's experience, you're literally walking in what they experience. You get to feel the fear that they felt. Um, the feeling of being desperate just to make it from point A to point B. I think that that's so relevant to that audience. But I think had they written this as an adult graphic novel, we definitely would have gotten, I think, the full picture. So,
That's why the site, I'm sorry, skip shop.
yeah. There was, I agree. I felt there definitely was more to that story than what we saw.
Yeah.
But I do
But
think it
we,
was.
but we, but I think we got enough. We got the picture.
No, we did.
Yeah, we didn't need folks to pour it out because it's like they Carlos kept saying that his mom never talked about it, and I kept being like, I hope this was done with care because you open somebody's Pandora's box, you're gonna do almost to close it. So
That's true. That's very, very true. Um, I know someone said this has been their favorite of all the selections so far.
I can see that.
I can see that too.
I can
What
see
have
that
we
too.
read so far this year though?
That's a good question, and that
We've
is why it's a favorite because it's given empty head, empty thoughts.
I can't. Okay, so we read Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees in January. And then in February we read New Masters. And then in March we read The Babysitters Club and The Makers Club. And then
I
this one.
agree. This is the best so far.
Yeah. Oh.
Nailed it. Astute. Astute. Beneath the trees was, yeah. So
Yeah, Beneath the Trees was really good. I think
it was, yeah.
they're very different though.
It's like nonfiction and
Yeah, and
fiction.
yeah, horror, anthropomorphic serial killer bear.
That serial killer bear receipts. Yeah.
You know the sequel's coming out in November, right?
Well,
Or
I'll
it's a
buckle up
prequel.
for it. I did not know that, but I hope it's on Hoopla.
It'll probably be on Hoopla because it's hi. Um
People.
what's my favorite nonfiction we've read? What's been your favorite nonfiction that we've read?
My favorite graphic novel nonfiction is This Could Be Us.
I think that's what Jess is probably gonna say too. No. What's yours again? Say it again.
This Could Be Us.
Okay, Jess is the best we could do. That's what it
There we
is.
go. I said it wrong.
That's what
That
I
is
was like.
it.
I felt that's what I was like. No, I
I
feel like
said
this
that
one is
wrong.
your favorite because I only
I
read it
said it
because
with
you read it.
conviction. Yeah, I said it with conviction.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It's
the
okay.
best we could do is my fave, and then it'll be the other one who's in Mario. One with the Iranian girl,
Hmm?
right? Still, so her
Is it nonfiction?
Persephone, yeah,
Persepolis.
Persepolis will be a solid 2, and then this will be my third.
Your third for nonfiction. I need to read. I mean, I've read Persepolis so many times at this point, but I want to read it again. I need to read it. That needs to be an annual read for me.
Yeah, I need to reread The Best We Could Do. I had it somewhere, or I thought I did. I don't know. Gotta find it. Um, since that must be.
Yeah, that one you put on my radar, and I read it and was a mess.
Yeah, you can't have a dry eye and read The Best We Could Do.
I
You'll
read
cry
that
the
one
whole
because of
time.
you. And I was
Yeah,
like, 'cause
I'm
we
sorry.
chose it as a book club pick, and it was your pick. You're like, oh,
It
I've
was
read this before. It's really good. And I was like, okay.
really
But
good
read
and
it, it was a
heartbreaking.
mess.
Yeah, I've cried so much times reading that. I'm like, how would they do this to me?
It was a really good nonfiction pick.
It like strengthens your beef with so many Western worlds.
Yeah.
Strengthens your beef. You're like, oh, I thought you were shitty, and I think you're shitty still.
Man. You know what? We should do a best of. How many years have we been doing this now?
This is our second or third.
This has got to be our third. We started on the other channel because you
Oh my
created a
God,
playlist.
me
You
too.
created a playlist on your channel.
Me too.
Uh-huh.
This might be the third. It might be in our third year.
Well, this is the. Hold on now. I'm gonna find this out and then we're gonna go.
Yes. Exactly.
I no, I think it's been longer. 2021. It's been 4 years. This is the fourth year. Because
Well,
I
me
was like,
thinking we've been doing this book club for 2 years and it's been 4.
we've been doing this book club for 4 years. We've
Clearly,
been
I
doing
don't
this
know
book club
math.
for 4 years.
4 years is a long time.
4 years is a very long time to be doing the same
It
book club.
is.
That's
I've just been
wild.
hanging out, and you've read every book. Me,
No, I
I
haven't.
skipped a couple.
No, I
Oh, you
didn't.
haven't? Oh, I
No,
definitely
because
skipped a
remember,
couple.
remember when we did V for Vendetta and Watchmen, and you read one and I read the other?
Yeah, that was rough because I think I read V for Vendetta and you read Watchmen.
Watchmen,
Or,
yes.
yeah,
Yes,
it was
that's how it
rough.
was. That was the order. Yeah.
That was a rough one. And I think there was one or two you and I DNF'd. I think there was
Yes.
one we did not read. We just came on screen and was like, no, you couldn't even finish it. And I don't even remember which one that was.
Hold on, let me check
That
my channel.
that was rough.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. We're gonna see this. We're gonna figure this out. Because now Jess is saying 5 years, but Justice can't be 5 years because that would be 2020. And that can't be right. Hold on. Oh, the Cooking BL manga? Yeah, I think Bree liked one of the mangas that I think we all hated.
I mean, that's on brand with me. I don't like something and everybody hates it, or I'll hate it. Everybody likes it.
Okay. I am pretty. Hold up. What's wrong with my little.
You should definitely add more manga next year.
Next year? Or you said next year?
Yeah, we should add more manga next year. The police is out today.
Okay, so I said huge announcement, Realm of Comics Book Club. This was on my channel. We created November 28th, 2021. That's when I did the video. And our first read was Bitterroot in December.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then we did Persepolis in January of the next year.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember why we ended up? It was because we did that saga read along. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We did that saga read along and then we jumped to doing this. Wow.
We did. We did Solo Strong.
Wow, that's wild. And you have a playlist on your channel called Realm of Comics Collected Volume 1.
I'll just say that.
That's so wild. We started off, that's wild. Okay, so we've been doing this since 2021. Officially 4 years in November. Well, it's been a great journey, y'all. I can't believe
It's
we've had
been
a
a
book
very
club
job.
for 4 years. But
It will continue.
hmm?
I said it will continue.
And we'll continue. And we'll continue because there's so much stuff that comes out. There's so much stuff to discover. But all right. So next month we have Marvelverse, Craven, the Hunter. It collects We found it on Hoopla. It collects Marvel Action Spider-Man issues 5 and 6, Marvel Action Spider-Man issue number 7, Marvel Adventure Superheroes, and Spidey. And so this is supposed to be a kind of like a character study of Craven, and we should have some appearances from Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy, and Miles Morales. So I don't know. I mean, I'm more familiar with Peter Parker and Miles Morales, not even really as familiar with Gwen Stacy. And I am not familiar with Craven. Bria, I think you are more familiar with Craven than I am, to be quite honest.
Just a little bit, not too much.
No, honey, I don't think I've ever read a comic with Craven in it.
Oh, I have.
So yes,
Yeah,
you know more than me.
yeah. I really should track my comics that I read. I swear, I just be reading.
And just be
And,
reading them, yeah.
and that's all I do. I just be reading. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all for coming.
So thank y'all for coming. We will see y'all at the end of May, which is going to be May 28th. So we'll see y'all on May 28th. If anything changes, we will let you know in the Discord. But thank you for joining us for the conversation, and we will see y'all in a month. Good
Okay, bye,
night.
y'all. Good night.